Getting back to the questions, what's your favourite song on the EP and why?
Oh, that's like asking who's your favourite child. That's a tough one. Look, I like them all. Stay Too Long's probably up there. Every Time You're Near. I'm just going to list them all, you realise that now. Look, I mean, Stay Too Long is probably going to be their first single, and that's probably one of my favourites. But look, I love them all. You know, otherwise they wouldn't be on the EP. I guess that's, you know,
Fair enough.
it's just the way it is. You know, you write so many songs, and you always try to narrow it down to however many you're after. And I was after 7, and they were the top 7 that I thought at the time the best I could do. They were in. But there are some that stand out over others. But again, like I said earlier, you know, I like that song. You may not like it. I mean, it's just, you can't pick it. You know, it's just the way it
depends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it works for some, doesn't work for others.
All right. Well, you did describe before, back in February, about your musical style. Has that changed on the EP?
From Break Me Down, it has somewhat. It's gone slightly edgier and fatter, in a fatter sound. It's still commercial, but you know, it's still commercial pop rock. There's a lot of rock element to it, but we still kept the pop side to it, you know, pop melodies.
Now, the process of writing songs, apart from getting the idea from, say, like a magazine or personal experience, like what we were talking about last time, how is that put all together? Is it really hard, or it comes just naturally to you?
Sometimes they do. Sometimes I could sit down with one of my writing partners in a 4-hour session, and we come out with a song, the skeleton of it, you know, just on the acoustic guitar with the melody lyrics fully done. Not polished to the point where it's in the studio, we've got drums and that sort of stuff, but it's in our heads. But the acoustic guitar or a piano, you know, as we just did with Jay, they could take, you know, anywhere from, you know, half an hour to 4 hours to 2 days to 2 weeks. It just depends on how picky you want to get and whether you do rewrites. If you settle for something, you know, you could do it in a 4-hour session, or a 5-hour session, or a day, a full day. So again, everyone works differently, and it's been interesting working with the guy I co-wrote Break Me Down with. He's the producer, Lindsay, and then we wrote 2 new other songs, and they came together quickly. I guess he's a producer, so he, you know, does it differently to the way I would have done it with the other guy from Sydney that I do, who's not a producer, he's just a songwriter. So everyone's different.
Are the verses quite easy to link up with each other? Like, do they have to flow? Or?
Sure. Look, the hardest thing is going from verse to chorus. You've got to make it. It's got to flow, but it's also got to stand out on its own. There's nothing worse than hearing a song and you hear the verse and then the chorus is finished, and you didn't realise that, and you've gone, oh, is that the chorus? Right. And you're sitting there going, well, that just sounded like one piece, one section. That's the hardest thing, is trying to make it. So that's not just in melody, that's in musically as well. So it's in the production. So you've got to, whether it's a drum thing, whether it's a guitar, depending on what it is, make sure your verse is your verse. And then when you go to the chorus, that it does stand out and that is your chorus, so people can go, hey, that is the chorus, wow, it stands out, as opposed to that just sounded like one complete section. But if that's the aim, that's fine. But I mean, you know, that's not how I try to do it. So right or wrong, I mean,
what's the difference between a verse and a bridge?
Well, the bridge or pre-chorus is like a little section, whether it's 2 lines, 4 lines, that links the verse to the chorus. So you may have a great verse and have this killer chorus, but somehow it just doesn't musically or melodically go. It just kind of sounds out of place. So you need this little, that's what they call a bridge, to link the verse into your chorus. It's like a build-up, and hence why they call it bridge, because you're linking that one with that one. When the songs are written, they're written, because I play the acoustic guitar, I feel that's my main instrument, so when I write, it's done on the acoustic guitar or piano. So I have a tendency to just strum along. A lot of the time, some of it even can kind of sound pop and country, not that it's meant to be. So when I go to the studio, like Lindsay for instance, I'd play him the song and say, okay, here's the song, let's strip it down. He's a rock guitarist, let's look at who my influences are and let's look at where I want to go, and let's start adding chords or riffs and melodic stuff to really make it rock out. You know, so yeah, things do get changed. Even when the song is written, it's rewritten in the studio. You know, it has to be, because you're adding drums, you're adding guitar, bass, you know, and there's all kinds of voicings and colourings and layers of stuff that you. It's an interesting process. If you've never been in the studio, it's something that I definitely recommend you do.
Yes, so I wouldn't mind seeing that. Talking of recording process, like you just touched on now, what would come first and last? Would it be, for instance, say the vocals are done first, or the instruments are done, or maybe the mixing in between, or do you record everything together?
No, well, I mean, that's an interesting point. Recording everything together, if you've got a band, so there's 4 or 5 of you guys, and pre-production's already been done with the producer beforehand, and everyone's got their parts down, you go in together in a room, isolated of course, and you dump it all down. That's like the skeleton, the base of it. And then you do overdubs, you know, like solos and stuff like that. But I guess being a solo artist, what we do, the guide vocal gets done first after like the drums and the basic acoustic guitar is done. So there's a guide acoustic guitar with the drums and a guide vocal. So having that guide vocal there, so it's not the final take. So at least there's something there we can follow. Then you start building it with guitars and double guitars and, you know, different amps and, you know, we used I think 3 different guitars with 5 different amps to create completely different sounds for every different song. So, and then you start building it, and the vocals are last. So after everything's recorded, then you do the vocals.
That's quite interesting. Actually,
Yes.
I thought the vocals actually came first.
Well, they do as a guide vocal,
Right.
not the main one. So you do a guide vocal.
So that it's a backing vocal.
Well, it's not even used. It's
No.
totally scrapped. So it's purely there just so you know what part you are. So rather than me sit there for 4 or 5 hours singing to the producer so he knows where I'm at when he's dumping the guitars, it's there. So he knows, okay, that's the chorus, this is what I'm going to do with the guitar. Once all the music's done, we scrap that guide vocal, I go in there and do a proper take. And then obviously you mix it.
Yeah. Do you think when you have an outlook on a recording session, do you think it is better to record it separately or all together?
It's not like, again, if you had a band, you'd do it together as a band, especially if you're seasoned and the guys are pro. It's one thing I've learned though, you could be a great guitarist live, but being in the studio is completely different. It's a different ball game playing guitar for the studio and playing guitar for live. And that's one thing I've learned a lot in the last 2 weeks, just from drums, guitars, bass, even vocals. You know, so that's a tough one. I think the proper answer to that isn't so much whether you want to do it individually, do one instrument at a time, whether it's more a case of getting the right people. So if you've got the right musicians who can do what they do in the studio, not so much for live, that's more important, nailing that than it is getting a great guy because he can rock out on stage. Like, that's great too, but that's for on the road. That's not going to help you in the studio. That's more important.
My next question, actually, something, you know, as you pointed, some musicians recording their own studio, is that to do with a cost thing, and do you prefer that?
Oh no.
You personally?
There's nothing more that I love than being in a big studio with big rooms, whether it's the Sony Studios or any of those big studios that you see pictures of. Any muser would die to be a part of that, just having that big desk. But the reality is, the budget, again, it comes out of the budget, just hiring those sort of rooms, it's just not affordable, and it's not realistic. When you can do similar sort of qualities, not so much in a home job, but in a small little suite, which is what we did, why would you? You know, the only major difference you will notice is drums. You're not really going to get a drum sound in a small suite that you would in a big studio. It's just a room, you know, the acoustics, the sounds, the mics, and all that sort of thing. So, but yeah, no, I personally, yeah, if budget wasn't an issue, I'd pick a big studio and a small one for sure. But at the end of the day, it's the result. It's the end result that matters. It's not just because you're overlooking the Harbour Bridge or whatever it is. That doesn't mean anything.